Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Techniques of the Week. It is another Life Pro Tip Thursday. We're going to be talking about looking on the bright side today, and this is one of the ones I really like. So hopefully you enjoy it too. Check-ins really quick. We'll go over perceptions. That's just sort of a fun way to think about perceptions, and those little monster guys are all the same size. Variations of perceptions, silver linings, examples of silver linings, a challenge, and then ways to contact me. Quick check-ins. I am feeling really productive with gardening. I know somebody in Roger's class is also doing a little gardening. It's kind of a fun way to de-stress and hopefully get something productive out of putting a little bit of work in. We rewatched The Greatest Showman yesterday, and I forgot how much I love that movie. I really like the message, and it doesn't hurt to have some really cool people in there doing some pretty cool songs. So, Greatest Showman, if you haven't seen it for a while, tune back in. And a random fact related to today's lesson is that birds' eyes have 4 color sensors. We only have 3. A lot of people, when they talk about color vision in different animals, they always talk about, well, dogs don't see color in the same way we do. This is kind of a different take on it because we don't see color the same way birds do. So they actually have a different perspective. So when you say take a bird's eye view, literally that means have an enhanced sensation. So everything that we perceive, everything that exists in our world is all translated into neural impulses in our brain. I mean, if you guys have ever watched the movie The Matrix, it really is crazy how much our entire environment is translated into these tiny little neural impulses in our brain. And so this is just a picture of the brain that tells you where some of these things occur. A lot of them come from it's dark green and red, the primary motor and the primary synesthetic cortex. This is kind of where we get a lot of our information from our body. There's also the visual association area, that's the orange part on the back of the brain and the primary visual cortex. And then the blue part sort of in the middle is the auditory cortex, and where we sort of get input from our ears and vision. Taste and smell actually occurs, it's not on this image of the brain, but it's actually in between the purple and the blue, the prefrontal cortex and the auditory cortex. That's called the orbitofrontal cortex, and that's right above our nose is where we get a lot of our smell and taste from. So everything that we see, everything that we feel, and everything that we hear, all of that stimuli is translated in this brain into just tiny little neural impulses. And I think that's pretty cool. Now, what this means is not everyone is going to perceive things the same way, meaning I don't necessarily see the same colors as somebody else, or I don't hear the same song the same way as someone else. And that's probably not the worst thing. So if everyone perceived things the same way, if everything was always uniform, we might end up like stormtroopers, or if you guys have ever seen iRobot, or seen the movie, read the book The Giver, where everything's sort of in black and white. I'm pretty sure that's The Giver. It might be Pleasantville. But if we all saw everything and felt everything the same way, we'd just sort of be robots, and it wouldn't be very much fun. On the other side, though, we do need to have shared experiences. If no one perceived anything in a similar way, we might be really brilliant scientists and discover something that no one ever thought of looking for before. We might try to do something completely radical and something that's never been tried. Or we might take it in a different direction and have some ideas of delusional grandeur. So it's good to have similar perspectives, but also unique perspectives, and finding that gray area is always a tricky game. So up next, we'll talk about some silver linings. Every situation offers a learning opportunity. No matter how bad it is, there's something that you can learn from every situation. And a lot of times we get into this fixation that, oh, this is the worst thing ever, or this is going to ruin my entire life. But in reality, most of the day-to-day stressors that we experience are actually life-threatening. And it's kind of on you to make the most of each of the experiences you have. So it's not really about denying that something is wrong or that something is happening, or completely trying to ignore it. It's more about this idea of radical acceptance, of just accepting the stress for what it is and trying to take a different perspective on it. And we all make mistakes. We all screw up. We all do things wrong. The better thing to do instead of dwell on the mistake or start engaging in some negative self-talk is to find value in mistakes. That's what helps us develop this really cool skill that we can have called resilience. And the more resilient we are, the more prepared we will be for the future. So if we went through life and didn't make any mistakes, didn't get anything wrong ever, we would have no resilience, which means that when we get to the real world, we're going to be devastated by the first minor setback we have. So value your mistakes. They are what make you strong. They are what help us learn, and they are what help give us our resilience. The other good thing about distressing situations is there's a reason that humans evolved to feel stress. Stress is a motivator. So if we never felt any stress, right? If we never had any drive or any impetus or anyone sort of giving us a kick in the rear end saying, hey, we got to get this done, nothing would ever happen. We would never make any changes. We would just sort of be bumps on a log. So distressing situations are good in their own right. So here I've just got some fun examples. At least I think they're fun examples. I hope you guys find them at least somewhat entertaining. A few years back, Morgan Freeman was caught sleeping during an interview, and his response to that was, "I'm not actually sleeping. I'm a beta tester for Google Eyelets. I was just updating my Facebook page." So he took a pretty tough situation and spun it, so it was kind of comical. Some people choose to get tattoos of a significant other. This one got a tattoo of Lauren on his wrist, and when they broke up, he covered it up pretty well with a Ralph Lauren tattoo. Or this person was in some sort of a pretty tough situation where they got a pretty gnarly bruise, but they turned it into a nice little chicken. Over here, we got somebody that I can commiserate with losing some hair, and he got a tattoo of a goat chewing the curd off of the top of his head. Or this guy had a pretty gnarly scar and inked in a little Darth Vader to make it a lightsaber. Over here, oh, this is my car accident slide. So we've got a pretty gnarly accident, and then they got the license plate of "Please stop." Over here, pretty gnarly accident, but then taped over it, and "'Tis but a scratch," meaning that hopefully the rest of the car works just fine. This scratch they covered up with the Jurassic Park sticker. And then this is just a really cool photo op of this little girl that is pretending she kicked in the windshield of a car. And then we get to the flood slide. These guys are in a flood. I'm assuming it's got to be Venice or somewhere like that where the streets can flood that much. But they brought out their little remote control cruise liner and are just having a grand time with it. These are not to be tried at home. Thankfully, it doesn't flood too much here. But on these guys' flooded streets, they decided to turn it into a wakeboard alley. This guy must not have seen the curb coming, but decided to drive into the store. And the store owners were pretty smart in coming up with a board that said, "Our prices will drive you into our store," quite literally. And then we've all probably seen similar iterations of this. This is if you get a crack in your phone, you can turn in the background into sort of enhance that crack. So I'm pretty sure that's Dragon Ball Z. I know somebody would correct me and tell me the name of the character and what they were doing. But I do know the one on the right is Spider-Man. So kind of a cool thing to do if you've got a broken screen. A nice silver lining there. And then this is one of my favorites of all time. Poor dog's got a cone on for whatever reason, but turns it to his advantage by covering up all of the treats so that none of the other dogs can get him. Kind of fun. So my challenge for you guys today is to make the best of a bad situation. So if you've got a bad situation you can think of or a time that you remember where you were kind of struggling, try to put it into perspective. Is this going to matter tomorrow, next month, next year, in 10 years? I mean, it's easy to lose sight of how much this really is going to impact your life in the long haul. Also, you need to accept reality. Why let what you cannot change control you. So this is something that I work with a number of students on is sort of your sphere of control or your sphere of influence. What is it about the situation you can't control? And if there's a lot of things about the situation that are out of your control, it's better to just sort of accept it and say, man, this is a really tough situation, but since I can't control it, I'm not going to let it control me. I'm just going to accept it for what it is and move on. And then be flexible. If you can find an option B or an option C or an option 546, whatever that other option might be, if you can make that happen, try to be flexible and to adapt. And adapt's actually the next one. So if you can think about a situation, what is one thing that I would change about this? What is the one thing that I need to change about the current situation? And am I able to make that change? So just a couple of different ways that we can try to make the best of a bad situation. I think that's it for today. Yep, that was it. So here are the best ways to get in touch with me. I really do hope to hear from you guys. If you guys are having great days or tough days or any kind of days in between, I would really love to hear from you. Take care.